Hey folks, and welcome to another video from aplaintruth.info. Today I want to get into what is happening here in the aftermath of the greatest fires to ever hit California. Specifically the EPA, FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, Governance Council, local council members are all strong-arming over 6,000 homes that are lost. People lost their homes into signing strong-arm agreements that if they don't sign, they're never going to get back in their homes. But I'm going to make the case that they're not getting back in their homes anyway. This is all premeditated, and we're going to get into it. This is one of the characters here, Darius Anderson. He owns the Press Democrat. He's starting the Noth Bay fire rebuilding. We'll get into that in a minute, but first I wanted to bring your attention to yesterday's article. We're getting great traction on it with the firemen, and here we have some comments. I just wanted to back up what Captain John Lord said yesterday. Jay Northup, on 30 years of fire department myself, I can't find fault in his testimony. This isn't the first time technology was utilized, and I'm fairly confident it won't be the last. This is a travesty in the highest order by several occult entities who have zero empathy for humanity. I couldn't agree more. Richard Myers, automatically held. I've got 6 seasons with CDF, California Department of Fires. One of those helicopter heli crew. It doesn't take an expert to see these were not your average fires. Fires need 3 things. You have paved roads, sidewalks, and driveways, stucco houses, windows, shingles. But there's green, not dry. They get watered. So fire gets the neighborhood, it would lose a lot of its punch. There's not a lot of fuel. Now, fire with wind is very bad. It will preheat, but when you lose the fuel, houses burn to the ground. Very strange indeed. So I want to bring your attention to the players behind the Rebuild Noth Bay that was created just almost instantaneously after the fires, and here's their website here. You can see in the wake of Noth Bay fires, we're gathering the right business, community, environmental leaders to better prepare ourselves for the future. Well, how do they want to better prepare? Rebuild Noth Bay is to ensure total and complete disaster preparedness for the Noth Bay, provide resources to the business community, especially small businesses that will be highly impacted by the devastating effects of disaster to economic well-being of the region. What's missing from this plan, folks? Anybody get what's missing? The people. They're talking about business. We're working with officials on the federal, state, and local level to implement new ways of doing things. From legislation to environmental reform to raising proper funding and resource centers to ensure full preparation in the face of wildfire disasters. Your guide to fire safety and preparation plus methods ensuring max preparation for both people and homes in the face of large-scale wildfires. What are they planning for, folks? And here's all the players they have at the Rebuild Noth Bay. They're bringing in the feds. This ex-FEMA guy, we'll get into him next time, James Lee Witt. Bill Clinton played Little League with Bill Clinton, and he runs a disaster recovery company. Their company, Secor, made $15 million on disaster recovery over the last quarter, third quarter, and that included Hurricane Harvey and the rest of them, where they went down there and no one saw FEMA, no one saw Red Cross, and now this guy's coming in as a FEMA guy, but it's for-profit disaster recovery. Recovery plans underway, and then here's this guy right here, Darius Anderson, owner of the Press Democrat, and let's get into him a little bit here, and then we'll get into the whole rest of this, but I'll get into this more in detail about these guys later, but I just want to give you a heads up of who these players are. Anderson is a principal in the Sonoma Media Investment, which owns the Press Democrat newspaper, the Noth Bay Business Journal, among other media assets. Rebuild Noth Bay's main goals will be work closely with both public and private sector to address immediate funding needs, future issues, assessment recovery, assessment above ground infrastructure, future legislation reform, and partner with organizations that are raising funds to those impacted in communities. We'll get into all these guys a little later. They're quite a cast of characters, folks. The Bohemian article, a local paper here, did a takeoff on these guys, and it was showing that this Doug Bosco guy and Darius Anderson, he's a developer, Darius Anderson, a real estate with Kenwood Investments, North Coast Congressman Doug Bosco, and Stephen Falk, former president of the San Francisco Chronicle and chief executive of the Chamber of Commerce, president of Darius Anderson's development firm, Kenwood Investments, developing, folks, and former executive with Clear Channel Outdoor, the largest billboard advertising company in the world. Darius Anderson has a long history as a high-powered lobbyist for companies like PG&E, Station Casinos, Pfizer, Microsoft, and Catellus. In 2010, he was fined $500,000 in corruption. He currently wants to build a $30 million boutique hotel in Sonoma Plaza. Doug Bosco is another beast entirely. Political influence, ties to the savings and loan scandal. As a congressman, he was implicated in a check bouncing scandal. He's behind the scenes power broker with deep interest in gravel mining, timber, and development. That's why they put in the smart trains, folks, because they're going to go gravel mining, timber, and development. Our local train system that took 14 years and was 500% cost overruns and only gives 30 people rides up and down from San Rafael to Santa Rosa, but it's for the Redwood Clear Cutting Preservation Project. He appears to have 5th District Supervisor Efren Carrillo in his back pocket. He's one of the Bosco boys. So this is the group we're dealing with. We'll get into them later, but let's get into what's happening here, because the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors is strong-arming the people here that have lost everything. Over 5,000 homes, 6,000 homes have been lost, and we're going to get into that now. So before we get into how the victims of these fires are being screwed out of their homes and being told they're not going to be able to rebuild, and they're being strong-armed and signing EPA cleanup and losing their insurance rights, I want to bring your attention to something else very disturbing: the fact that the emergency warning systems were decidedly not activated. They were chosen not to activate. A longtime resident, Greenbrier Whiteside, considered himself prepared for emergency. He had downloaded emergency notification applications on his cell phone, kept a public alert radio on hand, flashlights, etc., but none of these preparations helped. On Monday, October 9th, the firestorm burned more than 3 hours before it encroached his neighborhood. A neighbor pounded on his door. Same thing happened to me. Flames all over the place. Quote, "The one time I needed this, really needed this, the damn thing wasn't used." Fires that eventually burned 142 square miles of Sonoma County. They're saying at least 23 people died, but that number's a lot larger, 51 homes. 4 alert systems. They have 4 alert systems, emergency alert systems. But however, Marin County, Lakeside County, they got notified, but Napa and Sonoma counties, they decided not to alert people. Why? Because the Sonoma County Emergency Department has faced criticism for not using the 4th alert, which sent an Amber Alert style message on the cell phone, reaching locals and tourists alike, overriding silent settings. Called a wireless emergency alert. Guess who the system is managed by? You got it. Way to go, Brownie. Federal Emergency Management Agency has certain limitations of 90 characters. Get out now. Fire. Doesn't take that many characters, folks. Emergency officials have said publicly they opted against using the program because they didn't want alerts to go out countywide and cause mass evacuations that would have prevented first responders from reaching the affected areas. State emergency officials have said they can send messages to smaller geographic areas. So this is state telling the feds you could have done this. That was done in Lake County before dawn. Lakeshore Drive area, Clear Lake, where he wanted to force notifications onto any cell phone so people would know a wildfire was coming. The message by the state and local went out at 2:15 a.m., but it never came from the feds. Some cell phones were working even after the fires ignited, so it wasn't about the cell towers going down. People have shared stories of friends and family calling, providing essential warnings of the coming danger. In addition, remember, this is from the Press Democrat, the paper owned by Darius Anderson. The guys who are running the Rebuild Noth Bay. It's all a coordinated effort. This has been in the planning. It's been premeditated. But here we've had just a massive, massive increase in homeless. As I chronicled before, the Red Cross was kicking people out October 19th in the middle of the rain so they can get the Sonoma County Fairgrounds going again. And now we have over double the amount of people that have lost everything, and they're having to join up with the homeless people that was already a big problem here before. People from Coffee Park had to flee, and now they're having problems where it's raining here, and it's really really causing a strain on the local police, and it's going to, the 6th Street encampment, they're having to stay under Highway 101 for protection. And also in the Fountain Grove area, there's over 200 homeless across the street from the Fountain Grove Inn that were likely torched in the fires. A lot of people haven't heard from their friends there, but unfortunately people are making distinctions between those that had homes that were lost and the homeless people as well. But they're all displaced people now, and they're all us, so we need to take care of them. All right, so let's get into some of the minutia about how this was premeditated and how the people are going to be told they're not going to be able to rebuild, especially in the Fountain Grove area. All right, so I want to get into this Agenda 21. Agenda 21, Agenda for the 21st Century, started in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 with 178 governments. 21 refers to Agenda for the 21st Century. There's also the Build Out 2030 and 2045. They've been working on this for a very long time, and here's their map: Convention of Biological Diversity, the Wildlands Project, UN and U.S. Man and Biosphere Program, and various UN, U.S. Heritage Programs, and NAFTA. And you can see it's a very large group that is organizing this. The red, folks, is core reserves and corridors with little to no human use. That's all of Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Nevadas, the Cascade Ranges, most of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. But look at here in Santa Rosa area, they've got it designated as well, and that's what we're going to get into here. And I wanted to bring your attention to this document here. Very important document. Let me move this on over. Santa Rosa may boost housing densities in exchange for affordable units. And we'll get into all the letters, how they're setting this up to the Press Democrat to set it up to buy, sell the people on it. But look at the date, folks, please. This is October 7th. October 7th, 2 days before the fire. October 7th, Press Democrat. City is seeking feedback from the public Monday on its plans to dramatically increase housing densities throughout the city. A study recently concluded that depending on location, density bonuses of 60-80 are appropriate. That means given a project of 100 units could add 60 to 80 or 100 more homes, many of them designated as formal units for at least 55 years. Stack and pack 'em, folks, coming to Santa Rosa. It was pre-planned. Now let me take your attention over to this document here. This is the City of Santa Rosa Department of Planning and Economic Development Citywide Summary of Planning Development. And check this out right here. Look at this map, folks. Here's the Fountain Grove area. Shanate Road. Got you again, grammar Nazis. Shanate Road. I think I finally got it right this time. But what I want to bring your attention to is this other map right here. Now look. Here's the Santa Rosa Fire Evacuation Area. Fountain Grove, Mark West Springs, Shanate Road right here. And let's put them side by side. And you can see, let me get this a little bit bigger. And you can see here's the city planning map. And here's the fire evacuation map. Almost identical. The zoning just happens to be for planning of green design, no fireplaces and whatnot, with the areas they're designating to through the evacuations through the surgical fire, a fire that was never before seen in history by many firemen, as we quoted before. Coincidence? I don't think so. Now, remembering that this Press Democrat newspaper is owned by Darius Anderson, Doug Bosco, lobbyists, Democrat lobbyists, and special interest groups who profit from all this. The Rebuild Noth Bay is their designated organization. They're raising money in partnership with the Redwood Credit Union. So this was an article about the Fountain Grove area, talking about it being rebuilt October 28th. Some are asking whether it's wise to let one neighborhood in particular, the hillside enclave of Fountain Grove, to be rebuilt now that it's burned twice to the ground in 53 years, is what they're saying. Now, this is Sonoma County Supervisor Susan Gorin, supposedly our community representative, saying, I hate to even suggest this, but many people are starting to say, why are we, in the city's realm, why are we thinking about permitting rebuilding of Fountain Grove? Permitting? It's the people's homes, folks. They can rebuild if they want to. Prioritizing their building permits, waiving fees, and giving broad new authority to staff, to approve permits swiftly by limiting public review. See how the takeover, the corporate takeover is happening, folks? And the biodiversity. These moves have been embraced by the development community. Of course they are. Resident Marcia Taylor, they always get a resident to speak because that's how they work. Putting our community in a fire-prone area has jeopardized all of us and frightened us horribly, says Taylor, retired school teacher. Well, go live somewhere else. We need to slow down. Well, they're speeding it up, folks. We need to be thoughtful, and we need to look at the urban planning mistakes that we've made in the past and rethink them now and not repeat those errors. Oh, so we're going to go after the building. Is from a fire that occurred back in 1964, the Hanley Fire. And it goes on to say that the Hanley Fire was started on September 19th by a deer hunter who flicked his cigarette behind a roadside tavern near St. Helena, Mount St. Helena. And this is the reasons they're using. All right, so then they start using the public to validate their reasons for not rebuilding, and this is from November 2nd, the other day in letters to the editor, Thursday's letters to the editor. You scroll down here, and we've got fires, roads, and homes. The recent fires in northeast Santa Rosa should cause us all, including the Board of Supervisors, to rethink the building of 800 housing units on the site of the old Sutter Hospital in Chenate Road. It's reasonable to think that the folks living in those units would have at least 2 cars. If one does the arithmetic, that's 16 additional cars dumped onto a 2-lane road. Dumped. In normal times, traffic is a major problem. At a raging fire being pushed by 80-mile-an-hour winds and no warning from the emergency FEMA warning, and one has to ask what plans the supervisors are offering. One need to look at the street map to see several large neighborhoods with a single exit road. Add 1,600 cars, and it's a disaster in the making. And then the very next day, Friday's letters, November 3rd, we see Santa Rosa's leaders need to make a plea, a mix of new social media and old school media, to philanthropists and other forward thinkers such as Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the Google boys, even Al Gore. We need to convince those forward thinkers that our community needs them. We need to invite radical thinkers to propose a redevelopment plan for Coffee Park as a template for modernization and, Agenda 21 quote, sustainable development, a city of the future. Imagine what could happen if we bypassed our bureaucratic and bottleneck process of rebuilding, and approach this with a clean slate with forward thinking, a goal of net zero energy and resources. Sustainable community, no fireplaces, small units. Envision a community that could be a model for the future. Come on, Santa Rosa, what do we have to lose? Well, ask the 6,000 people, 6,000 homes that have been lost and the people that live in them to see what they think about that plan. Here's an article from Monday. This was an earlier article. This is, I believe, October 23rd. So this is the first one I saw in the local paper here, setting the Agenda 21. Rebuilding Coffee Park. That's right across the highway from Fountain Grove up here in Santa Rosa, North Santa Rosa. Coffee Park has a unique opportunity to rebuild into a mixed-use, viable neighborhood. Let's face it, millennials don't want to end up in a suburbia, and boomers want out. People desire to walk or pedal to jobs, schools, shops, common services, and restaurants without burning gas or risking dangerous speedways such as Hopper Lane. Innovative people-based designs enjoy higher demand, real estate value, and resident enjoyment. Rebuilding can blend the best of what people want while doing what Americans love to do: innovate, design, build, create value, make money, and work together on shared solutions. The city of Santa Rosa can help residents of Coffee Park rise from the ashes and rebuild a truly walkable neighborhood where services are available, streets are walkable, and people gather in pleasant common spaces. Let's work together rebuilding Coffee Park and lead in rebuilding America. So now I want to get into how they are squeezing the homeowners to make a decision that have had their homes razed. Santa Rosa Community Meeting focused on debris cleanup. I want you to look at the date here, October 26th. And these people look at their justification of their homes here in Coffee Park. Packed gymnasium, mayor says he's with us. But Shirley Zane, Sonoma County Board of Supervisors chairwoman, focused on heavy-duty cleanup managed by the federal U.S. Army Corps of Engineers starting next week. They will literally scrape incinerated homes down to the bare earth. This will allow them to incorporate the too heavy fire zone, extreme fire zone, and not allow rebuilding because they've scraped it down to the earth as part of their agenda. Josh Jimmerfield, an Army Corps debris expert, another federal agency, explained why concrete stem walls and foundations will be removed from every home who agree to the service. Tests have shown that concrete is typically unsound following a fire, and the soil beneath it often contaminated. What caused the fire, folks? Army Corps of Engineers? What caused it? Anybody? A fact sheet prepared jointly by the City of Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, handed at the meeting, stated even if the foundation is sound, quote, there's a risk of exposure to toxins if you choose not to remove it. This will keep mortgage companies and insurance companies from allowing them to get loans to rebuild their homes. Homeowners who opt out of the program and save their foundations, quote, will be required to meet approved standards. Whose standards? To ensure the integrity of the concrete, the fact sheet said. Whose facts? To qualify for subsequent debris removal, homeowners must sign and submit a detailed right of entry from allowing Army Corps of Engineer contractors onto private property. I think these people have had enough. They've lost everything. They only got a 90-day grace period on their mortgage payments, and now they're having to submit a detailed right of entry. Give me a break. 500 forms been submitted, said County Director Christine Sosko. We want to give ample time to do your own research and decide which way to go. Now remember that, ample time. Corsi and Dunkelman both referred during the meeting to more than 5,000 homes have been destroyed. CAL FIRE says it's 6,900 homes. Zane said supervisors will adopt standards to be met by homeowners who opt out of the government debris program. You have to opt out. It's not your property, folks. You have a certificate of title. You don't own title. That's how they do this. The form requires homeowners to assign all county, all insurance payments earmarked for debris removal. So they're turning over their insurance for their homes over to the federal and county agencies for cleanup and debris. This is the hook they get them. So then, remember we said they're going to give ample time. Well, look at this article here. Let me get this up here. Sonoma sets deadlines for wildfire victims to join debris removal program. November 3rd. So this is 9-10 days later. Sonoma residents lost their home, have a little more than 1 week left to sign up for government-sponsored cleanup, or about 2.5 weeks if they want to apply to use a private contractor instead. It's your property. It's your land. You can take as long as you want. Why are they telling you you have to do what they say? Fire victims must submit right of entry forms by November 13th to allow contractors with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to remove debris of destroyed homes. Homeowners who decide to opt out of the government effort have until November 22nd to submit an application which allows private contractors to remove the remnants of their charred homes. What are they talking about? Why do they have to submit an application to have private contractors? Why can't they just do it themselves? It's your property. You decide what to do. The Board of Supervisors convened a special meeting to set the time frame as quickly as possible. Well, didn't they just say they were giving them all the time they needed? They were allowing transitional housing units provided by FEMA at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds, and we know how they're treated there. Homeowners' debris removal has remained one of the most pressing and confusing concerns, and it was the main focus of the supervisors. Many residents have objected to the quickly approaching deadline to join the government debris removal, asking for more time to consider whether it's the best option for them. Emergency officials, however, have maintained November 13th is the latest date. The reason why it's the latest date? Because the Office of Emergency says a delay is going to continue that threat, and it's going to increase our program cost. Remember that, increase our program costs. So as of 1,500 right of entry forms are submitted, more than 4,000 additional homeowners still need for the debris. They need to quickly choose one program another. Supervisor Zane says it's about the public health, like they care about the public. Our water's about to be polluted here. They're not putting any of these swaddles around to protect the runoff into the streams or doing anything like that to protect us. Nothing at all. Other taxpayers they're doing this so other taxpayers aren't subsidizing a benefit that's already covered. If a homeowner had insurance specifically for debris removal, the government will collect the reimbursements. Isn't that great? They're taking over your insurance policy. If you do this program, you're turning down an additional insurance coverage and choosing to manage the complexity yourself, but they're giving you a timeline of how you have to do it, folks. County and city officials are hosting a debris removal resource fair. We'll be there as well. All right, so in closing, I want to bring your attention to who benefits, cui bono, from all this disaster capitalism. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here, but I just want to go back to the players that are involved with this rebuilding that have all of a sudden been brought in, federal government agencies, local players, former congressmen, Democrat lobbyists and whatnot. This guy, James Lee Witt, a former director of FEMA during the Clinton administration. Apparently he's on Clinton's Little League team. He's come in to do the work here, and we want to show you what his company is here, folks. So let's look over to here to Mr. DeWitt and move this over here, and I'm going to show you what Mr. DeWitt is about. He formed, after he left the FEMA, he formed to create a private crisis management and disaster response firm that helps communities and companies recover from nature's hazards. He's a disaster capitalist. He makes money on disasters. A Louisiana-based crisis and emergent firm was a unit of Secor Holdings to form Witt O'Brien. Witt O'Brien merged and then sold to Secor Holdings. The combined corporation is in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. They have offices, listen to this, in New Jersey, Washington, Alaska, Arkansas, California, Florida, Brazil, United Kingdom, chosen specifically because they're prone to typhoons, hurricanes, earthquakes for their proximity to the oil and gas profit from the disaster. August 2007, Witt was serving on the management team of Global Options Group LLC as president, provided consulting on emergency and disaster preparedness. He also helped set the International Building Code that's a model for, check this out, folks. You think he's having a bad day? Well, think again. Check this out. This is Mr. DeWitt's holdings in Secor, CKH is the symbol. So we got the hurricane starting back in August, and look at the stock. It's done great, from $30 to over $52. It was at $3 on trading on Friday. Profit from the disaster. Mr. Witt, come into our town, take it over, and then tell us we got to give over the property to your management team. That's how they run, but they're not alone. Check out these other guys. Remember what Rahm Emanuel, Chief of Staff for Obama, never let a good disaster go to waste. This guy here, Darius Anderson, owner of the newspapers, in bed with James Lee Witt. Well, he owns Kenwood Investments. Chief Executive Darius Anderson, Kenwood Investments, focus on real estate development. How about that, folks? And also, we're going to go to the Redwood Credit Union, local credit union here. And this credit union has taken in over $17 million to date in donated money from people. Yet when you go in to get loans or get money from people for the disaster of the $17 million, they are making these people lost everything take out loans at 2.9%, even though they've taken in $17 million. So here's the head of the board of directors, a man named, and I'll get into this more in the next one because we got to drill in who these people are. Robert Steele, he's been 3 terms there. Well, Robert Steele, who are you? Well, it turns out that Mr. Steele is on the board of directors and part of Alliance USA. Well, who's Alliance USA? Well, Alliance is expertise in global leader in corporate and specialty risk. They're an insurance company for disasters. You can't make this stuff up. He's the head of the board of the Redwood Credit Union. And this guy is directing the funds to people in bed with all the rest of them. All right. And I'm not going to leave it at that. I'm going to give you one more thing because we got to have some hope here as well. So I'm making up these flyers and we're handing them out. And anybody local, please contact us at 1009, the date of the fire, 1009 cafirehelp@gmail.com. We're going to do a people-to-people, community-to-people help and assistance. No corporations, no federal agencies. Reject disaster capitalism. 1009 cafirehelp@gmail. Contact me. We're organizing here in community. We're going to turn this thing around, folks. We're not going to submit to the players who want to take everything away from the people who've lost everything already. And we're next if we don't. All right, so that's a plain truth out. I hope you got you fired up a little bit to see what's going down here. We'll catch you in the next vid, Doc. Peace out. And R.I.P. Winston. I'm so sorry, buddy. Their homes anyway. This is all premeditated, and we're going to get into it. This is one of the characters here, Darius Anderson. He owns the Press Democrat. He's starting the Noth Bay fire rebuilding. We'll get into that in a minute. But first, I wanted to bring your attention to yesterday's article. We're getting great traction on it with the firemen. And here we have some comments. I just wanted to back up what Captain John Lord said yesterday. Jay Northup, on 30 years of fire department myself, I can't find fault in his testimony. This isn't the first time technology was utilized, and I'm fairly confident it won't be the last. This is a travesty in the highest order by Hey folks, and welcome to another video from plaintruth.info. Today I want to get into what is happening here in the aftermath of the greatest fires to ever hit California. Specifically the EPA, FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, Governance Council, local council members are all strong-arming over 6,000 homes that are lost. People lost their homes into signing strong-arm agreements that if they don't sign, they're never going to get back in their homes. But I'm going to make the case that they're not getting back in the people. They're talking about business. We're working with officials on the federal, state, and local level to implement new ways of doing things. From legislation to environmental reform to raising proper funding and resource centers to ensure full preparation in the face of wildfire disasters. Your guide to fire safety and preparation plus methods ensuring max preparation for both people and homes in the face of large-scale wildfires. What are they planning for, folks? And here's all the players they have at the Rebuild Noth Bay. They're bringing in the feds. This ex-FEMA guy, we'll get into the players behind the Rebuild Noth Bay that was created just almost instantaneously after the fires. And here's their website here. You can see in the wake of Noth Bay fires, we're gathering the right business, community, environmental leaders to better prepare ourselves for the future. Well, how do they want to better prepare? Rebuild Noth Bay is to ensure total and complete disaster preparedness for the Noth Bay, provide resources to the business community, especially small businesses that will be highly impacted by the devastating effects of disaster to economic well-being of the region. What's missing from this plan, folks? Anybody get what's missing? Several occult entities who have zero empathy for humanity. I couldn't agree more. Richard Myers, automatically held. I've got 6 seasons with CDF, California Department of Fires. One of those helicopter heli crew. It doesn't take an expert to see these were not your average fires. Fires need 3 things. You have paved roads, sidewalks, and driveways, stucco houses, windows, shingles. But there's green, not dry. They get watered. So fire gets the neighborhood, it would lose a lot of its punch. There's not a lot of fuel. Now, fire with wind is very bad. It will preheat. But when you lose the fuel, houses burn to the ground. Very strange indeed. So I want to bring your attention